Hey everybody, welcome to Technical. You may recall a while back I made a video about isopropyl alcohol. I theorized that you could use just plain old elbow grease on a microfiber cloth to clean a CPU contact surface, and it would be just as effective as using the cloth, the said elbow grease, and isopropyl alcohol. And my testing did demonstrate that that was the case, but I received two very valid criticisms about the video that I plan to address today. First criticism involved the type of paste I was using. When you reapply the same thermal paste as the one you've previously used, obviously you're going to get favorable results because it's not two chemical compounds that are mixing unfavorably together. And number two, the amount of time between thermal paste reapplications was obviously just a few minutes on my test bench, and the average real-world scenario is going to involve 2, 3, or even 5 or longer years in between thermal paste applications. And of course, crusted on, caked on, disgusting old ass thermal paste is going to be a lot harder to clean off than something that's been freshly applied. So will my theory hold water? Stay tuned to find out. So here in front of me I have one of 3 systems from circa 2006. It's a pre-built and it hasn't had a fresh thermal paste application in over a decade. So testing is going to take place in 3 steps. Step 1, I'm going to take the motherboard out of the PC because I don't really need the rest of the components for testing, and I'm going to leave everything else in place, including the RAM, the heatsink, and the old ass crusted on thermal paste from 2006, and I'm going to take a baseline temperature reading for reference. Step 2, I'm going to remove the heatsink, rub off as much of the thermal paste as I can with just plain elbow grease and a microfiber cloth, and reapply thermal paste and take a second reading. I'm going to note the temperature differential between the old ass paste and the new paste without a proper cleaning. Step 3, I'm going to do the same thing I did in step 2, except use isopropyl alcohol for test 3. So what we're hoping to see is a difference in temperature between steps 2 and step 3, which will validate the need for isopropyl alcohol. Let's go over to my test bench and get started. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we are over at my workspace. As you can see, it's a fucking mess, but I've done my best to try and organize in such a small space. So now what I'm going to do is take off the heat. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just kidding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the camera down, and I'm going to remove the motherboard from the equation here, discard the rest, and we're going to boot it up and see what we got. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there she is in all her glory. I'm just going to give her a quick squirt here. Oh god, this is going to be bad. Oh lord. Oh god, it's disgusting. Oh. Alright, so now what we're going to do is throw this fucking cable out, so no one gives a shit. And we're going to hook this up to my trusty AX860i from Corsair. Yes, Johnny, I do use fucking Corsair power supplies, okay? I'm not a total fucking anti-Corsair asshole, so just fucking chill. Now I'm guessing, for those of you unaware, that this is going to, because it's so old, not going to boot up into 64-bit Windows. It might actually, but my guess it's got like a first generation Athlon, which means it does not have the instruction set necessary to support 64-bit Windows 10. So we're going to have to figure out something. In the meantime, let's put in my little UBCD stick right here. I'll explain what that is at some point. It's just a flash drive with UBCD on it, which is a fantastic little tool set that you can use to do all kinds of nice shit and diagnostics and testing. We do have onboard video, but you know what? I think it'd be better if I just stuck with a DVI connection and put a card in, so I'll do that. Take my test card here. I don't know what this card is, for the record. I think it's a it's an engineering sample I picked up from one of my friends up in North York near the AMD offices. Oh, should I have said that? Maybe I shouldn't have. Okay, everything looks connected. Let's boot her up and see exactly what we get and get all these fucking screws off my goddamn shit. Okay, that's loud. Huh. Oh, here we go. We're posting. We are posting. Took a while. Error. System fan has failed. Press F2 to continue. Okay, it'd probably be a good idea if I connected a keyboard. Okay, now where is my USB dongle? Dongle, where are you, dongle? Aha. There it is. Okay, so here we are at the UBCD menu. We're going to just do a quick memory test here, because that will tell us what CPU we've got. Are you ready? Here's the big reveal. I'll zoom in on the appropriate spot. And I was right! Sorta. Synathlon 64X2. So, it might actually support Windows 10 64-bit. And let's see. Oh, Windows loading. I believe this SSD is installed with a legacy boot. It's not UEFI. So that shouldn't be a problem. The only problem is whether or not the system can actually run Windows 10 64-bit. Getting devices ready, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. Alright, and we are home free. Look at this. No problems. I anticipated being at this shit all night. But as it turns out, my fears were unwarranted. This is incredible. Windows is activated. What? How did that happen? Let's take a look here. What do we got temperature-wise? We have, and this is often misreported, so I'm gonna. No, these are good. These are real temperatures. Sometimes, I don't know if you were aware of this, but there are a lot of AMD processors, older ones in particular, that misreported their temperatures in Windows by like 20 degrees. So they would show up as like 9, which obviously doesn't make any sense. But these look like real temperatures. So CPU packages being reported at 28 to 30 degrees at idle, and each of the cores is resting in between 32 and 37, depending on when we look. Let's just jump right into Prime 95 and small FFTs to make it virtually as hot as possible. And there we go. We are started. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's several minutes later, and it looks like we've plateaued at an average of 45 to 46 degrees on each of the cores. I think they've peaked at 47 and 45, respectively, going from highest to lowest. And I think that gives us enough of an idea of how these are going to pan out for us to get our future readings. I hope, anyway. I was really hoping for higher temperatures than this. I was hoping for it to get up into the 50s, so I can have more of a variance, but this will have to do. Okay, so step 2 of this process involves removing the heat sink and taking a look at what's under the hood and giving it a good rub down. So let's do that now. Oh yeah. Oh. So now we're going to set this down, and I'm going to take my microfiber cloth and just give it a good thorough cleaning without any isopropyl alcohol at all. Ugh, it's just like rock hard around the edges. That's disgusting. Oh, okay. Alright, let's get to rubbing. Trying to get it as stainless as possible before I reapply thermal paste. But with a reasonable amount of time. I'm not going to sit here all day and do this. That would be ridiculous. Okay, so all in all, I think I'm happy. That's the cleaned, non-alcoholed surface of the CPU. And there is the surface of the non-alcohol cleaned heatsink. So now, we're going to pop this fucker back on with some fresh paste and take our second reading for the test. Okay, so here we are. We're stressing it once again for test number 2. I've applied Cooler Master's Icy Fusion, which is a pretty run-of-the-mill, standard, not particularly good, not particularly bad thermal paste, and we're looking to see if we had any general improvement in temperature from giving it a good rub down without any alcohol. And we're going to let it run for a few minutes again until we get a nice stable plateau and come back and take an official reading for the purpose of this video. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we are after the test's been running for some amount of minutes. It's not really all that important. All we looked for is a plateau where temperatures were not increasing anymore, and we found it because temperatures are once again stable exactly where they were before. They've been stable at more or less this for the entire duration. So I think what we can conclude, at least for now, is that reapplying fresh thermal paste without alcohol doesn't net in any real significant temperature gain. But what happens when we apply isopropyl alcohol and give this thing a good clean? Will that knock us down a few notches? Let's find out. Okay, it turns out my my thermal paste job wasn't terrible, but I did obviously miss a little bit of the edges. Not really critically important with AMD CPUs, for the record. As long as you get a good spreading in the middle, you're usually fine. So let's clean this properly, quote unquote, and see if we can get an improvement in temperatures. Okay, so here we have our Life brand 99% isopropyl alcohol, and we are going to Put some on the cloth like that. Let's make that a little bit better. Oh, it's like I've never chloroformed a person before. Oh yeah, it dissolves it so nice, doesn't it? Isopropyl alcohol, you know, I will say this. It might not necessarily make a temperature difference, but it does make cleaning easier. Alright, that got off most of it. Now let's give it a couple of other scrubs. I hope the camera's getting all this, because I don't want you to think I'm cheating. That looks pretty good. I don't see much left on it. The cloth looks a little murky, but pretty clean. So let's do the CPU heatsink now. And let's give the whole relevant surface area a cleaning. Obviously the only thing that really matters is the surface of the CPU heatsink that actually contacts the CPU. All the stuff around the edges here is not as important. Yeah, get in there nice and deep. Yeah, get in there deep. Well, still got some schmutz. Let's keep getting the schmutz off. More schmutz. Get that schmutz off. This thing was bukkakied by a bunch of fucking thermal paste cocks, it looks like. It's a lot on here. Well, it's still a little bit murky. Give it another go. That's like 7 or 8 passes with this thing on 99% alcohol. I can almost see my face in that. It seems pretty good, so I think we're good to go here. We got 2 perfectly clean isopropyl alcohol surfaces. Let's boot her back up and see if we've gained anything temperature-wise. Okay, there's my third P. Third P, hey. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to close off this portion of the video. Once again, there we have our 2 core temperatures, and there are the recorded maximums right there in the middle of the screen. Actually, a little higher this time, but well within the margin of error. I don't think there's a real difference here. Nothing to write home about. Oh, and for the record, just one other thing I wanted to note here. The fan header that I'm using to plug in this fan is actually a 3-pin, and you know, you're not going to see this on the video, but I already checked the BIOS, and the fan speed variance is not particularly high. It's been fixed at 2,500 RPMs through all the tests. I just forgot to actually show you that on the screen. Anyway, let's go back to Desk Jeff and we'll close it out. Okay, so before I begin, let me address a couple criticisms that I'm almost certain are coming my way before I even finish this video. Number 1, yes, I'm fully aware that the temperature variance between idle and maximum temperatures was low, and as a result, I'm not going to be able to see very fine differences in results. This means that if you're talking about extreme overclocking, an i7 on custom liquid cooling, you might actually see an observable difference between isopropyl alcohol clean surfaces and plain ass not isopropyl alcohol clean surfaces. But in the majority of use scenarios, as I just demonstrated, when it comes to stock cooling or even a Hyper 212 Evo on a modestly overclocked i5 or i7 or something like that, go nuts. If you have a bad seating and you need to repaste, don't go out and buy a $9 bottle of alcohol to do it. Just fucking take the goddamn cooler off and do it. Secondly, I know the sample size was small. I only had 3 motherboards to test on. I did use all 3. I ran the test 2 additional times and noticed no difference. But I didn't bother filming it because the video is already fucking 12 minutes long, so what are you gonna do? Anyway, I think we're gonna call that one a video. Streaming will happen this weekend. I'm going to do it at least once a week now. I have convinced my girlfriend at the very least to join me. I have some friends who maybe are interested in doing so as well. So stay tuned for that. It will probably take place on the YouTube channel right here, because apparently that's a thing you can do. I was not really fully aware of that until recently. And I'd rather than just not use another service. I'd rather promote this channel and get people here. And lastly, I just want to say, this is not a paid sponsorship at all. These people have not paid me. I just happen to eat lunch at this place every day in Toronto called Sky Blue Sky Cafe. They're really, really great. They're currently up for the Best Sandwich Award at Now Magazine here in Toronto. I'm going to provide a link down in the description. If you have time, just make an account and vote for them, please, for me, because they are like super ass nice, and I just wanted to give them a little 30-second spot. And if you live in Toronto or in the Toronto area and you are able to go to one of their 2 locations, do it. I'm telling you, it's an amazing experience. It's like sex on a bun. Anyhow, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.